So let us begin with this new chapter. Okay. Now it's an element. This chapter, what we are going to discuss, no, it is about the element you are going to study, and this particular element, okay, it is the most abundant element in the universe. You can see I've put the picture of the universe. It is one of the most abundant elements which is present in the universe. Okay, around 70%. Around 70% of the total mass of the universe is because of these elements. And in the earth, if you're going to calculate the percentage of this element in the earth, it is the third most abundant. Okay, it is the third most abundant element on the surface of the, okay, on like in the globe, I can say. Okay, so that can be in the combined form, or just they may be in the elemental form. Yes, I have already got the answer, and that element what we are going to discuss today, okay, which is given as a chapter, that's none other than the hydrogen. Okay, the first element what we have in the periodic table. So hydrogen is one such element. If you know hydrogen in the universe, when I tell you, okay, sun, moon, everything, these are nothing but made up of hydrogen itself. They undergo fusion. Okay, hydrogen and hydrogen combine together, then they form helium, then there is a emission of energy and everything comes out. Okay, so that's because of this hydrogen fusion. Okay, the nuclear fusion reaction which is taking place, which leads to the formation of earth, even stars and everything. Okay, that is formed because of this element. Initially this is the one which is the starter of these things. Okay, so that's the hydrogen, one of the important element what we have in the earth surface. I said you find them in the third most abundant category. Okay, so let us move on with the next thing of hydrogen. Where exactly this hydrogen should be placed now? After the discovery of hydrogen was done, okay, scientists were wondering where exactly to place them. Should we place them here, okay, in the first series, or should we place them in the 17th group? Okay, so that was a confusion for them. Okay, so what happened is, like, they listed out few things. So they saw that there are similarities with the alkali metals, and they have seen that there is similarities between the halogen also. Okay, why that similarities? We will discuss that one by one. Okay, so now hydrogen, why we are discussing with alkali metals? Because hydrogen has only one electron in their outermost shell, and you know alkali metals also has only one electron in their outermost shell. Any alkali metals I'm taking, okay, they will have only one electrons in their outermost shell. So that's the similarity. No, you know, elements which are having same electrons in their outermost shell will behave in a similar fashion. Okay, so these alkali metals and hydrogen started showing similarity. Now what are those similarities? You see, one I told you is the electron, the number of electrons which are there in their outermost shell. There are same number of electrons, okay, in the hydrogen as well as in the metal. So that means their behavior will be similar. Okay, one more thing is, since there is only one electron, they have a chance to lose that one electron and become stable in the form of plus ion. Okay, like if I have sodium now, sodium atomic number is 11, we know sodium will lose one electron during the process and get converted to sodium ion. Similarly, since hydrogen also has one electron in their outermost shell, hydrogen can lose that one electron and get converted to the positive ion. Okay, that is H plus ion. So it is possible by hydrogen also. Similarly, how alkali metals also, they get converted to Na plus. Okay, next thing is valency is 1. Okay, because one electron in their outermost shell, so valency is 1, combining capacity is 1. They can form one bond with any of the element. Okay, next is, if they are giving electron, okay, you know sodium can give one electron. So if they are giving electrons, you have studied now redox chapter. If any species gives the electron, that means they are called as reducing agent. Means they can reduce somebody. Reducing somebody means what? Giving the electron to somebody. Okay, so these will act as a very good reducing agent. Alkali metals are very good reducing agent. Similarly, hydrogen can also give an electron. Okay, so they will also act as a good reducing agent. Next, one more thing is, metals which are there, they form oxides, they form sulfides, they form halides. Okay, when they are combined with the other elements. Okay, when they are combined with, usually with the non-metals. So oxides can be formed, like we have metal oxides. Okay, metal oxides are formed, metal sulfides are formed. Okay, depending on the valency. I have not written the number of atom, I'm just telling metal with oxygen combines together to form metal oxides. Metal combines with sulfur to form sulfides. They combine with halogen to form halides. Similarly, you will find that with hydrogen also. Hydrogen combines with oxygen, H2O will be formed. Okay, if they combine with sulfide, you will get hydrogen sulfide. They combine with halogen to give you hydrogen halide, like HF, we have HCl, HBr, okay, and HI. All these are the compounds which are formed. Similarly, how the metals also combine. So we got lot of similarities between hydrogen and the metals. Okay, so this is about the similarity. Now, the other thing is the differences. Okay, so one difference what is found is the high ionization enthalpy. Okay. See, alkali metals, size wise, if you go, hydrogen comes first. They are placed in the first shell, like first shell it is. And then below that you are having lithium, then we have sodium, then we have potassium, like that. Okay. You know the number of shells are increasing as you are going down the group. So when you are going down the group, you know, it becomes easy for us to remove the electron from their outermost shell. Correct, no? What is the reason for it? That we are able to remove this electron easily from the outermost shell then compared to the before one, the period which is there before that, okay? Compared to that, the down ones can be removed easily. The reason for that is effective nuclear charge, correct? No, down the group, you know, effective nuclear charge decreases. This nucleus is not that strong enough to hold these electrons, okay? The outermost electron, yes, they are far, very good, correct. And they are far from the nucleus, okay? So that effective nuclear charge is decreasing. But in the case of hydrogen, you know, nucleus is right here, and then after that we have the electron placed in the next shell. So removing this electron is very difficult. So they have very high ionization enthalpy. That is the difference compared to metals. Their ionization enthalpy is very high. Okay, and then one more reason is because of the size. They have small size. If they lose one electron, they get converted to H plus ion. Okay, and they are not stable in that form. Okay, H plus form, they do not exist in that free state like that. Okay, so hydrogen by themselves, it is not stable like that because they have only one electron. So to make themselves stable, they will try to associate with another atom. Okay, so here this hydrogen doesn't exist with one electron like that. They combine with another element. Okay, and they exist in H2 form, molecule form. Like that you don't find in the alkali metals. Usually metals, they exist alone. Okay, you will find only sodium atoms combined together. Okay, so like this, they are not in the sodium, and sodium bond is not there. Okay, so there is no bond between them. But when we are comparing that with hydrogen, hydrogen doesn't exist like the way metal exists. Okay, they combine together, they share their electrons. Okay, one electron is given by hydrogen, another electron is given by another hydrogen. They share the electron and they exist in H2 form. Okay, so here the bonding what takes place is the covalent bonding, whereas we don't find that covalent bonding existing in the metals. You know, metallic bonding exists in the metal. So that is the difference between alkali metals. So we saw similarities are also there and differences are also there. Okay, then they wanted to check whether it will match with the 17th group element. Okay, 17 group elements when we are taking. Okay, why 17 group? Because hydrogen can take one electron and get converted to noble gas configuration, that is helium. So if they have to copy, they should be immediately placed before the 18th group. So 17th group. Okay, so if you're comparing a 17th group, you see what are the similarities. 17 groups are halogen. Okay, so halogen is short of one electron. So like that only hydrogen is also short of one electron. If they get one more electron extra, they can copy the noble gas. Okay, so there is a similarity. One similarity is we have found is this. They are one electron short to the next noble gas. Then they can take one electron. This hydrogen can also receive one electron and get converted to helium atom. Okay, so tendency to gain electron. Noble gas also, you know, they are having 7 electrons in their outermost shell. If they get one electron, they will get converted to a stable electronic configuration, that is 8. Okay, so they also have a tendency to gain one electron and get converted to H minus. Okay, hydrogen, they can copy the halogen in a similar fashion. One more thing is ionization enthalpy. Okay, like I told you just in the difference we discussed, from the halogen also, you know, removing the electron from the outermost shell is not that easy because nuclear charge is very high. Already they are having high small size, and small size, lot of electrons and protons are there here. Okay, you have so many protons which will hold the electrons. Okay, and they are being fallen in the same shell. So their effective nuclear charge is very high. So removing an electron from the outermost shell is not that easy. Okay, so they have very high ionization enthalpy. So that ionization enthalpy of halogen and hydrogen comes out almost be like it is high itself compared to the metal. Okay, they are showing high ionization enthalpy. And then halogen also exists in diatomic form. Hydrogen also exists in diatomic form. Okay, halogen, you know, we write as X2. We have F2Cl2 and then Br2. So hydrogen also is existing in the same form. Okay, so this is the similarities with the halogen. Now coming to the difference what they have found is the electron gain enthalpy. Okay, electron gain enthalpy is tendency to take that electron is not that higher than compared to halogens, because they don't have that much effective nuclear charge. Okay, it is smaller. Electron gain enthalpy is smaller than compared to halogens. Okay, and then they form stable hydride only with the highly electropositive element, not with everything, like sodium, calcium. Okay, so only with them they will be forming stable hydride. Otherwise, as you go down the group, the stability of the hydride is decreasing. Okay, so that is a difference we have found. So we see in both the ways, you are getting similarities as well as difference. So people are not able to, scientists were not able to actually decide which position should be given. So on the whole, the conclusion what they have drawn is, okay, from all these above discussion, they finally came to that conclusion that hydrogen is unique in its behavior. Okay, it is showing resemblance to both alkali metals. It is showing resemblance to alkali as well as it is showing resemblance to halogen. Okay, in certain properties you saw that they have similarities, and in certain properties we saw that they have difference. Okay, so it is not justified to place hydrogen in any of these. Okay, we can't exactly decide based on this. Okay, so hydrogen to be placed in the alkali or to be placed in the halogen, they were not able to decide. Okay, finally one thing why they were placed in the alkali series is because of the group. Okay, you know, hydrogen has one electron in the s orbital. Okay, so we have in the s subshell, so that is the reason why hydrogen is placed over there. Okay, so it is not because of any of the differences or the similarities. They have found equal differences and equal similarities in both the case. So it's not even decided. It is still a it's a topic of discussion actually. Okay, still it can be discussed where exactly they have not able to decide it properly. So just a first position is given based on the group in which they are having electrons. Okay, that's it. So there is no correct answer for it. Okay, so you can give the, if they ask you explain the position, you can finally say that there is no particular position given to the hydrogen. Okay, based on their group, they were placed in the first alkali series. That's it, first group. Okay, now moving on with the next occurrence of hydrogen. Okay, that is sources of hydrogen. Where can you find hydrogen? Either it can be in the elemental state or it can be in the combined state. Okay, elemental or in the combined state. So one I told you is in the universe. Okay, you can find high concentration of hydrogen in the universe. Around 70% of hydrogen is existing. Now in the earth's surface you don't find much amount of hydrogen. The reason for hydrogen not to exist in the earth's surface is because hydrogen, you know, it's light in weight. Okay, light in nature, so they escape out easily from the earth's surface. So that is the reason why the abundance is less in the form of hydrogen molecule. Okay, in the form of H2 you will not find much amount of hydrogen existing in the earth surface because of their light nature. They escape from the surface of the earth. Okay, but they are found in the combined state. Okay, if you see them in the combined state, you will see they exist with the oxygen in the form of water. Okay, then they are found in hydrocarbons. We have discussed the chapter, the whole chapter is over hydrocarbon, if you remember. Okay, methane, ethane, propane, alkenes, alkynes, benzene, all of these compounds which are used in our daily life, they consist of carbon as well as hydrogen. Okay, so now here again you are getting them in the combined form. Then carbohydrates. Okay, the food, the main course what we consume, okay, that is made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So they are called as carbohydrates. Okay, initially they were calling it as hydrates of carbon. Like if I take glucose C6, then H2O 6 times. So it is called as hydrates of carbon. Okay, having water as well as carbon together. So carbohydrates they have. And then all the organic matter, okay, that is plant as well as animals, okay, they are made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and other elements are also present, but hydrogen is combined in the combined state over here you can find, okay, in almost all the organic matter. It can be in the form of like ammonia, then we have water, then I said, okay, carbon compounds are there. So that is about occurrence. Let's move on with the next one, that is isotopes of hydrogen. You know what are isotopes, right? Isotopes means the compound which are having same atomic number but a different mass number. Okay, so if they have same atomic number but if they differ in their mass, then such type of compounds are called as isotopes. Yes, we have three isotopes for hydrogen, correct, very good. One is protenium, then we have deuterium, and then we have tritium. Okay, protenium is where you are having one proton and then there is one electron. Okay, remember there is no neutron here. Proton doesn't have a neutron in them. Okay, so we have here one electron and one proton. If they ask you which isotopes of hydrogen doesn't contain neutron, that is protenium. Okay, so neutron is zero here, there is no neutron. Whereas if you come to deuterium, you will find there is one electron, then there is one proton, and then there is one neutron also. Okay, so this is the different subatomic particles which are present in deuterium. And in tritium, as you can see, there are two neutrons. Okay, n value is 2 here, and one proton and one electron. Okay, so here you are having one electron, and then we have one proton, but there are two neutrons which are present. And this, the last one, tritium, which is there, that's radioactive in nature. It is not a stable compound, so they keep emitting the radiation. Okay, so tritium is the radioactive element of hydrogen. Okay, so this is unstable in nature, so they emit the radiation. Okay, so tritium is one element of that. So that's about the isotope of hydrogen. After this, what you have to study in this particular chapter, that is hydrides. Okay, next important topic what we are having, that is hydrides. Now what are these hydrides? Hydrides are, it's a binary compound. Okay, it's a binary compound. Binary means made up of two elements. Okay, so you are having hydrogen, hydrogen combined with any of the element. Okay, hydrogen, when they are combined with any of the element, they will give rise to hydrides. Okay, hydrogen, when you combine with any of the element, that element can be from any of the block, except we don't talk about the noble gas. Except the noble gas, you know, noble gases are more stable, so noble gases do not combine. Okay, so if hydrogen is made to combine with the remaining elements except the noble gases, then whatever compound you are going to get, they are called as hydrides. Okay, now your question is, which is the most stable form of hydrogen? That is protenium. Protenium is stable. Okay, even deuterium is stable. But when the number of neutrons ratio increases then compared to proton, then they start becoming unstable. Okay, so that is the radioactive part, the nuclear chemistry part of it. Okay, yeah, so what I was telling is about hydrides. Hydrogen, when you make them to combine with any of the elements, they are called as hydrides. Okay, so based on the type of element they are going to combine with, means I'm talking about this hydrogen. Okay, hydrogen can combine with different class of elements. So we have S block, P block, D block, F block elements. Depending on that, the classification of hydrides are done. Okay, so we have classification as ionic hydrides. It is also called as saline hydride or salt-like hydride. Okay, and then we have second one called as covalent or molecular hydrides. Okay, covalent or molecular hydride. And the last one is metallic, also called as interstitial or non-stoichiometric hydride. Okay, the first one, ionic, is also called as stoichiometric hydride. So these are the three classification, okay? First one ionic, second one covalent, third one is metallic. So let us discuss each one in detail, starting with the first one, that is ionic hydride. See, ionic hydrides are those hydrides when hydrogen combines with the S block elements. Okay. If hydrogen combines with S block elements, then those type of hydrides are called as ionic hydride. S block, you know, there are two. One is group 1. We are having group 1 element, and then we are having group 2 elements. Okay, so any of these elements, if they combine with hydrogen, they will be called as ionic hydride. Okay, because the compounds are ionic in nature. The bond which takes place here, the formation of bond which is happening, that's ionic in nature. So it is called as ionic hydride. Okay, they are transferring the electron. So here metal, like if I take now sodium and you combine with hydrogen, sodium is more metallic in nature. So what sodium will do? Sodium will transfer their electron. They will give their electrons, whereas hydrogen will receive the electron. Okay, hydrogen is a non-metal. So non-metal will take the electron. Metal will give the electron. So sodium can give one electron and hydrogen can take one electron. So they will combine together to form sodium hydride. So NaH, like that only lithium hydride. Okay, so these are the example for ionic hydride. Okay, I'll repeat once again. Ionic hydride means if a hydrogen combines with the S block elements. Okay, such hydrides, S block elements which are highly electropositive in nature, fall under group 1 and group 2. Okay, so metal will usually give the electron, get converted to positive ion, and hydrogen will receive that electron, get converted to negative ion. They combine together to form these hydrides. Okay, that is first category one. Now second one is covalent hydrides, also called as molecular hydride, because you will find many elements combined together. So they are also called as molecular hydrides. So covalent hydrides are when hydrogen combines with the p block element. Okay. So if hydrogen combines with the p block elements, and you know p block ranges from which number, group number to which group number, students? This you can tell me. Which group number to which group number you are having p block elements? Yes, very good. Correct. Group 13 to group 17. Correct, no? Group 13. So group 13 to group 17 elements will fall under P block. Okay, so if hydrogen combines with this P block, so I can take now from 13 group, if I take boron, boron valency, you see, boron is 3, okay, and hydrogen is 1. So if boron combines with hydrogen, okay, boron valency will be 3 plus and hydrogen will be minus, okay. So you will get BH3 as a hydride. Even aluminium can be taken. Aluminium is Al3 plus and then hydrogen is H minus. So AlH3 will be the hydride which can be formed. Example is this, okay. And then from group 14, if I can take carbon. Okay, carbon is in 4 state and hydrogen is 1. So CH4. Okay, then after that we have, after carbon you are having next nitrogen. Then we have oxygen and then we have fluorine. Okay, these are the element. So you can see their valency and combine. Carbon has 4, so that means they can form 4 bond. Nitrogen requires 3. They have 5 electrons in their outermost shell but requires 3, so they will combine with 3 hydrogen. And oxygen 2, no? So H2O we write, and then we write HF if they are combining with fluorine. Okay, so these are different categories of covalent hydrides. Okay, examples I've given here. But this covalent hydride, okay, depending on the number of electrons they are having, they are further classified. Okay, so we have further classification of these covalent hydride. So they are further classified as, see, there are 3 categories. One is called as electron. The first one is, that is called as electron deficient hydride. First one. And then second one, we are having electron precise. And the last one is, third one is electron rich. Okay, the last one is electron rich. Okay, so first one I said electron deficient. So if hydrogen combines with, okay, in electron deficient from group 13 to 17, okay, in that in the P block, group 13 if they are combining, okay. So if group 13 elements combine with hydrogen, okay, then they will be having, see how many electrons they will be having. If I take boron, boron will combine with 3 hydrogen because boron valency is 3. Okay, they will combine with 3 hydrogen, I told you. So BH3. Now, is it a stable compound according to the Lewis structure? What does Lewis say? How many electrons they should have in their outermost shell? They should have 8 electrons. Agree with this? They should have 8 electrons. So if I take boron, boron can form 3 bond with the hydrogen. So they are having how many electrons? 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5 or 6 electrons. So they can take 2 more electrons. So that means they are deficient, no? They don't have sufficient number of electrons with them. Okay, so any group 13 elements, whenever they combine with hydrogen, okay, they will be deficient in nature, like aluminium also, AlH3. So we have categorized them as Lewis acid, you remember, and we take them as a catalyst because they can take 2 more electron pair from any compound. Okay, so these are called as electron deficient. Group 13 elements if they are made to combine with the hydrogen. Okay, because according to Lewis structure they don't have sufficient number of electrons. Okay, I will write here, they have less number of electrons than required. Okay, number of electrons than required. Then coming to electron precise, go according to the name. See, electron precise, they are saying precise means how much is required, that much is there. Okay, so now your group 14 elements, group 14 elements will combine with, when they combine with hydrogen, they will come under group precise, electron precise category. Like carbon, if I take, carbon combines with hydrogen to give you methane. Okay, and if you see the number of electrons for methane, they are having 8 electrons. Yes, correct. Yeah, 8 electrons are there, and it is correct, no? According to Lewis structure, one element should have 8 electrons in their outermost shell. So that means they are having what is required for us. Okay, so they have required number of electrons. So they have the required number of electrons. This I am talking according to Lewis structure. Okay, according to Lewis structure. Even there when I said I am talking about Lewis, according to Lewis structure. Remember that. Okay, so that is electron precise. So you can take silicon also. Silicon also can form 4 bond. Okay, then they will be electron precise. Now last one, electron rich, means they will have electron extra then expected from the Lewis dot structure. Okay, so that will be called as electron rich ones. So group remaining groups, what are they? From 13 and 14 are over. So we have group 15 to group 17. Okay, so if they are combined, noble gas, I said we don't categorize them over here. So group 15 to group 17 elements, if they are combining together, then they will be called as electron rich because they have excess electron then compared to what is required. Okay, so because they have excess of electrons then required. Okay, then required. Now from group 15, if you take, group 15 is nitrogen. If I take with nitrogen, you see nitrogen is 3 valency and then we will combine with hydrogen, so you will get NH3. Okay, so NH3, then nitrogen has a lone pair of electron. You can see here they are having extra 2 electrons with them. Okay, so they have one lone pair of electron. And then if you talk about oxygen, oxygen is O2 minus. So when they combine, it will give you water, H2O. So they have 2 extra lone pair of electrons with them. Okay, and then we have fluorine, HF, they have 3 pairs of electron. Okay, from 17 group, if I'm taking example, see they are having extra lone pair of electrons for donation. So they will be falling under electron rich species. Okay, so that is about the covalent hydrides and the bonding between them, because it is covalent in nature, so it is called as covalent hydride. Now last one we are having, that is metallic hydride, also called as interstitial or non-stoichiometric hydride. So here, if hydrogen combines with the remaining, it's which block? D and F block elements. Okay. So if hydrogen combines with the D or F block elements, then those hydrides are called as metallic, interstitial, or non-stoichiometric. Okay. Non-stoichiometric, why? Because you don't find the exact ratio. Okay. They are not in a whole number ratio. You will not find exactly like now in the metallic, not metallic, first one I'll take ionic hydride, sodium hydride. See, there is 1:1 ratio. You can see they are in whole number. For one sodium, you can see one hydrogen. Okay. So this is a correct whole number ratio. But in the metallic hydride, what happens is, okay, when these hydrides are formed, like if I take now D block elements, imagine these are the D block metals. Okay. So when you pass hydrogen gas to this, or during the reaction, if the reaction is taking place, what happens is this hydrogen atom is there, no, they get trapped over here between this place. Okay. And this place between the atom, this place is called as interstitial site. Okay. This site is called as interstitial site. The space which is present between the atoms. Okay. You can see this is space which is there, which is present between the atom. This site is called as interstitial site. So during the reaction, when D block elements are made to react with hydrogen, so these hydrogen will get trapped in this particular places. Okay. And the ratio what you are going to get when you count the number of metals with the hydrogen, you don't get them in the whole number ratio. Okay. You will get them in fraction, maybe decimal. Like this, if zirconium, now zirconium is one D block element. Okay. Zirconium when made to react with hydrogen, they have found this is a ratio. Okay. Hydrogen is found to be 1.92. Okay. Means they are trapped in between, and then the in between ones, when they are counted with respect to zirconium atom, okay, they were found in fractions. Okay. Because it is shared between so many atoms, so you will get them in fraction. So this is the ratio. Okay. So it is called as non-stoichiometric. So this is one example. Or if you take now F block element lanthanum, lanthanum when combined with hydrogen, they have got them as 2.87. Okay. So if you are getting this ratio of hydrogen with the elements, then they are in non-stoichiometric ratio. Okay. Such hydrides are called as metallic hydrides, or because all of these elements are metals itself, so they are called as metallic hydrides. Okay. I believe it is understood for you. When hydrogen elements is made to react with D and F block element, this hydrogen gets trapped in between them. Okay. They get trapped in between this site, which is called as interstitial site. And when the ratio of the metal and hydrogen is taken, they don't come out in the exact ratio. Okay. They come out as a fraction because this hydrogen will be shared between so many atoms. So they are just trapped in between here and there. So you get an odd number ratio there. So they are called as non-stoichiometric hydride. Now I believe this much, whatever. Yes, let me continue with the next one. Okay, next after this, you are going to study the compound. Okay, you are going to study compound of hydrogen, that is water. Okay, first compound we are going to study, that is water. Now moving on with the physical properties of water. Okay, physical properties of water, like how do they look? You know, water is a colorless liquid. Okay, very important for a organism to exist. Water is very important. Okay, and they are colorless. They are colorless. They are tasteless also. You know, water doesn't have any taste. So they are colorless and tasteless liquid. Molecular mass of this water, molecular formula is H2O. So molecular mass of water is 2 hydrogen. So 2 into 1 plus 1 oxygen, which weighs around 16. So 2 into 1 plus 16, that is 18 gram per mole. Okay. So if you are calculating 1 mole of water, when you measure, it will come as 18 gram. Okay. So 18 gram per mole. So that is the molecular mass of water. Then coming to next physical property, boiling point of water. This you can answer, students. How much is the boiling point of water? Water boils at what temperature? Boiling point of water is, yes, 100 degree Celsius, or I can say 373 Kelvin. Correct. So water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Now coming to freezing point of water. what temperature water will freeze? Water freezes at a freezing point. Yes. Freezing point of water is 0 degree Celsius. That is 273 Kelvin. Okay. So I have taken a round figure, 373 and 273 Kelvin. Okay. So that is the physical property. Now moving on with the structure of water. Okay. This you have studied in chemical bonding. Structure of water. From the hybridization, if I take, oxygen, atomic number is 8. So it is 1s2, 2s2, and then I have 2p4. Only outermost electrons undergo hybridization. Okay, so I have 2 electrons here in the s orbital, which is paired, and then I have 4 electrons in the p orbital, correct? So now when the water formation takes place, these 2 electrons will remain as it is, okay? But they will be undergoing mixing. The hybridization over here which takes place is 1s orbital fuses with the 3p orbital. So sp3 is the hybridization. Okay, this 1s orbital combines with 3p orbital, but one orbital will have 2 electron, another orbital will have 2 electron, means 2 orbitals over here will contain 2 electrons. Okay, and the remaining 2 orbital, total 4 orbitals are there, the remaining 2 orbital will contain 1 electron each. So the orbital which contains 1 electron each, that will overlap with the which one? Orbital of hydrogen. Okay, these two will overlap with the orbital of hydrogen, correct? Yeah, s orbital of hydrogen, to form that oxygen and hydrogen sigma bond. So this is how the structure we get finally. And then 2 lone pair of electron. Here you have 1 lone pair of electron, this side also you will have 1 lone pair of electron. So due to that lone pair and lone pair repulsion, the structure comes out like this. Okay, bent V, it is like this structure. Okay, because of these 2 electron pairs which are present over here due to their repulsion. Okay, and the bond angle reduces to around 104.5 degree. Okay, so that is about the structure of water. Now in the water there is a type of bonding which is existing. Okay, what type of bonding do they have between water and water molecule? Okay, when they are in the liquid state, there is a bonding. H2O and another H2O can have a bonding between them. Okay, so hydrogen over here is positively charged. Oxygen is more electronegative. So this hydrogen can bind with the oxygen. Okay, and this bonding, when hydrogen binds with the most electronegative element, that bonding is called as hydrogen bonding. Okay, so here between the water molecules, whatever bonding they are having, that is hydrogen bonding. That you need to remember. Okay, the nature of bonding which is existing between them. Okay, hydrogen binds with the most electronegative element, so it is hydrogen bonding. Okay, next moving on with the chemical properties of water. So first chemical property let me discuss. First one, they are amphoteric in nature. What do you mean by amphoteric? This we have discussed in equilibrium also. I have told you about amphoteric nature of water. When I was explaining, I have told you this. So water, according to, we are discussing this according to Laurie Bronsted theory. Okay, Bronsted theory. Acid base theory. So what do they say? Yeah, they can act as both acid as well as base. Okay, so it depends in which company they are present. So if I am taking water in the presence of an acid, okay, like HCl. If I take them in the presence of acid, HCl is an acid. So it depends on which company they are present, they will change their behavior. Okay, so they are having dual characteristics. They can act, people change their color, no? In the presence, if they are along with the more dominating people, they will act little recessive. Okay, papa types they will act. But if the person is very papa, these people will become jor. So like that it is. So here they can act as acid as well as base. So in the presence of acid, this will behave as a base. Okay. So if they are behaving like a base means what? Which will accept one H plus ion. Acid is the one which will give one H plus ion. So here this will give one H plus ion. And this one will take that H plus ion. Okay. So the compound which will be formed after the reaction will be, we will get H3O plus plus Cl minus. Okay, so this will be the conjugate ones which are formed. Okay, so here you are having acid. The compound which is formed over here will be conjugate base. This will be the conjugate base of it. Okay, and here we had base. So the compound which is formed over here will be the conjugate acid. Okay, so where water is acting as a base here. So you can take now in the presence of the base like ammonia. If I take ammonia as a base, ammonia is acting as a base. So when ammonia is a base, water here will act as acid. Okay, so ammonia is a base, so water will dissociate as H plus and OH minus, and that H plus will be taken by ammonia molecules. Okay, so NH3 will take that one, and NH3 will take that one H plus, get converted to NH4 plus plus OH minus. Okay, so this will be the compound which will be formed. So when ammonia takes one H plus over here, from the base they will get converted to conjugate, they will get converted to conjugate acid. Okay, and this acid will get converted to conjugate base. Okay, clear about this? Yes, now I will repeat this once again. See, amphoteric nature means where the water can act as acid as well as base. Okay, they can act as acid as well as base. So when you take them in the presence of acid, they are acting as a base. So base means a substance which will take H plus ion. Remember, according to Bronsted, they say base will accept H plus ion. Okay, they will accept H plus ion. And acid is a substance which will donate H plus ion. Okay, they will donate H plus ion. So you do that reaction and give the product. Okay, that's it. So that is one chemical property which I have discussed. We will continue from here itself in the next class. Okay.